Friends, I'm privileged to welcome politician, author, academician and senior advocate in the Supreme Court, Salman Khurshid Saab. Salman Saab is a perfect blend of intellect, wit, humor and the spirit of public service and inclusivity. And of course, great looks. There's always something to learn and there's never a dull moment with Salman Saab. He comes from an illustrious family. His father, Khurshid Alam Khan Saab, was the union minister and the governor, and his grandfather, Dr. Zakir Hussain, was the president of India. Salman Saab joined politics at a very young age as the OSD in Indira Gandhi's PMO, if I'm not wrong. Indira Gandhi's PMO. Indiraji's PMO, yeah. In the early 80s. He was then a freshly minted lawyer from the Oxford University, where he also taught as a faculty for a brief while in the Trinity College, if I'm not wrong.
Trinity,
Trinity, yeah, that's right. So, while thinking about this welcome address, I realized one thing. Wherever Salman Saab went and whoever met him, people just didn't let go of him. He went to Oxford University as a student and the university hired him as a teacher. He joined the PMO, Congress party-led PMO, and the Congress party later made him a union minister. And the most peculiar one is that he joined the Delhi Public School, which was the Mathura Road branch. And the DPS Society made him the president of the DPS Society. And he served there for nearly 2 decades, during which period he opened dozens of new schools, a large number of them in very remote areas where there was no educational infrastructure, and it served the cause of education in the country to a great extent. There's something about him that I would like him to share with us that makes him so desirable. People just don't let go of him. And what is it, Salman Bhai? You must tell us. So I'll end my welcome address with a small anecdote about how I met Salman Bhai, which was about 3 decades back. So I met him in 1994 when I used to work 2 blocks away from here for the Economic Times. And at that time, my salary was 5,500 and I got a job in the Gulf for 45,000 rupees. It was a big deal. And so all interviews and everything was done, and the editor asked for my passport so that he can stamp the visa to facilitate my travel. The problem was I didn't have a passport, so I had to get one quickly made. So my brother sent me to his friend Vivek Karju, who was then the joint secretary in the MEA. काटजू भाई के पास गया, वो 5 चुइंग काटजू, हमारा छोड़ो क्या गल्फ अल्फ है, इकोनॉमिक टाइम्स अच्छा अखबार कुछ नहीं, यहीं रहो ये वो. And the passport was not met. So someone suggested me that you go to Salman Saab, who was then the junior minister in the External Affairs Ministry. And he used to hold this morning Janta Darbar at his Lutyens bungalow. So I went there at 8 o'clock in the morning, stood in the queue, and when my turn came, I introduced myself and informed him about my problem. He told me, कोई कागज़ वागज़ लाए हो? मैंने कहा हाँ. कागज़ लिया उन्होंने, उस पर लिखा कि इनका कोई एक सेक्रेटरी था साउथ ब्लॉक में, कि just get this done. And he signed and he said 10 बजे ऑफिस खुलेगा, वहाँ चले जाना passport. And I got the passport at 4 o'clock the same day. It's another story that I never went to Gulf because by that time I had fallen in love and I decided to chase my sweetheart rather than chasing my Gulf dream. So now I'll open the floor to questions. But before I do that, I would like to caution you all that he's very adept at handling journalists because he handles 2 within his household. Wife Louise is a former journalist and son Samar is also a journalist who worked with HT, and then he went to to Colombia or someplace to do his post graduation and all. And Salman Saab, in spite of all his achievements, remains remarkably humble and polite to a fault. So now I open the floor. Questions? If you want to make an opening remark?
Well, just a few words. It's a unique privilege to have someone like Prabhu Chawla ji here. We've had over the years, as politics has taken us high up and then brought us down, etc. He's always been there to flag whatever we've been doing and how we've been doing, and therefore, in a sense, if comes at a moment of importance in terms of passage of time, I'm really feel privileged and happy that I'm able to meet with you in his presence. And of course, Shahid has explained that he's been a good friend. Can I call him a passport friend?
Yes.
But we've been friends for a very long time. He gets along very well with my wife as a journalist. They meet quite often, and quite often I find that I am an outsider in conversations that are only conversations known to journalists who are close to each other. So thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity to talk to you. In times where talking to even friends has become very difficult, for no other reason, it's not a political commentary on anything, but just because we seem to have lost the ability to converse, to talk, to communicate, because life has become so complicated in many ways, including in terms of politics. It's become extremely complicated, and we don't speak that much as we should to each other. We shout at each other, yes. We growl at each other, yes, but we don't speak to each other. So it's a unique opportunity for me to be able to spend some time with you, talk to you, and perhaps learn something from you.
Okay, can I ask the first question?
Yeah.
So, we are like on the verge of having general elections, all important general election where the ruling BJP and the Prime Minister is hoping to score a hat trick, and the Congress party is gotten together all other opposition and formed India Alliance, and there's going to be all kinds of seat sharing talks that are going on, and you are part of the alliance committee formed by the Congress party, and so it is going to be very important to see if the Congress party is going to succeed in having meaningful seat adjustments with the other opposition party. So, and the entire case for a good election now rests on whether your committee is able to succeed in good seat sharing arrangements or not. So, how do you think that is going on, and at what stage are you at the moment?
Well, I have some views about what we are trying to do, but I'll come to that in a moment. Since you want to know the timeline and the progress that we've made, as far as we are concerned, we have a very specific, confined mandate. It's not about how the alliance will function. It's only about ensuring that the core of the alliance, which is seat sharing, is done with as much speed as we can ensure, and to be done in a manner which leaves us with greater sense of friendship than when we started the process. So we've actually taken feedback from all our state level leaders who are involved. There are about 9 states. 1 or 2 states we haven't yet addressed because they're a little bit complicated, but the other states we have addressed. We've talked to our leaders from the states, not just CLP and PCC president, but also recent CLPs and PCC presidents, important leaders, as well as the person who's in charge of the state. We've talked and had freewheeling discussions with them and tried to chart out what our expectations are. In some case, beyond realistic expectations, I might use the word a little bit romantic, and beyond what seems ground reality in terms of objective expectations, but honest expectations, be that as it may. So we have an idea, and now we will communicate to the states, the alliance partners, with whom we've already been in touch last night, variously. Last night till about 11:30, 12, we were reaching out to them, and they are now scheduling their meet with us. Many of them wanting to come to Delhi for this purpose, which we will begin tomorrow, and then spread it over the next 3-4 days perhaps. At the end of those 4 days, 5 days, we'll have an idea of the extent of instant agreement and the sticking points. We'll have an idea, and then we'll go back to party leadership to ask them how we proceed further. But talking about the alliance itself and this process of seat sharing, my own view is that we are all learning. We are not natural to alliances. I think that's not overstating something. We are all in a learning process. I expect and I hope that our alliance partners are also doing the same thing, that they are learning as well. Though some of them have more experience in alliances than we have. So it's a learning experience, and we have to be careful that we don't appear novices, but at the same time that we don't appear to be too rigid and too hardened in our opinion, so that we are flexible and yet we are not pushovers. And I think that applies to everybody. So can we talk sincerely, productively, creatively is what we have to learn, and we are learning in the process of trying to reach out to people. And I think from what we learn now in the process of negotiating is also something that perhaps will help us if and when we actually succeed with this alliance and we are able to form a government. So a lot that we do now, hopefully, will come handy when we actually try to run an alliance government. So that is how I hope that we are all working and thinking, and how we will finally get a fix. 3-4 days, 5 days from now, we would know, I guess, how tough this task is, how viable this task is. But we are all determined that this is something where we cannot fail. This is something that just must succeed, because so much for our party, our colleagues and alliance partners, and in the country, for institutions in the country, depends on how we are able to piece all this together.
When it comes to alliance making, how much of your own state party leadership that you have to manage? Adhir, as you can see, the headlines today is all about Adhir taking on Mamta. So you have to, it's not just about seats that you have to adjust with your India Alliance partners, but it's also about how you manage the egos and the concerns of your state leadership. And that, along with that, I would like you to say that, 2024, its election is not just about, we are in a cusp of something more significant than an election. This is the first time that, a Prime Minister is seeking a third term, which will bring him on, if he wins, it is going to be Nehru's legacy, which is going to get repeated. Then there is a mandir which is getting built in your own state. So that will have its own kind of resonance across the country. Already we have seen some of it in the past state elections that has happened in the northern Indian states. So your thoughts on that, on the nitty-gritties and the larger picture.
Yeah, well, there is a lot of...
So if I can add to that, what is the new narrative that the Congress is offering to the electorate?
So
that
No,
could
to
be
the first one is like the important. How much do you have to
so
manage
you
the
have
state
three
leader
questions on
of your
I understand.
the issue and the narrative? Congress
questions.
parties.
See, I will say one thing. In talking about state leadership, I will say one thing, that the impression, maybe right reasons, impression one has of our leaders in Bengal, Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary, for instance, is quite different from how they come across when we meet them and talk to them. They have a they had a point of view about politics in the circumstances in which they've done that politics, and they've paid a price for it, and they've done it in a manner of robust aggressiveness, but they don't carry that through in every conversations we've had, despite they're obviously not making concessions as far as the ideological position is concerned, and let's call it ideological position because that's what it is. It is not just ego. It is an ideological position they take, and that despite that ideological position, they have been extremely cooperative and helpful, and done so with an open heart. When I must say that the impression of a hardened general that you get from him when he's out in public life is not what is expressed to us. He's extremely cooperative, extremely accommodative, extremely willing to listen, extremely willing to talk about the issues that are there before him. And we've had, let's just say that we've had no discomfort at all talking to leaders from West Bengal, despite the very difficult scenario in West Bengal. We accept that it's a very difficult scenario. We'll have to deal with it. I don't even know whether ultimately we will be able to deal with it ourselves, or it'll all have to travel up to our top leaders before it can be resolved as far as Bengal is concerned. But we do have leaders in every state who have strong opinions, and needless to say, the opinion inevitably focuses on Samman Janak alliance. In my own state in UP, they talk about Samman Janak, etc., etc. And one can't disagree with someone saying, let's have a respectable alliance. You can't disagree with that. The problem with respectable word is that it means different things to different people. And therefore you have to sit down and say, define respectable here. And then that defined respectable actually then translates into numbers. And when you get to numbers, then there is the whole idea of both viability and visibility. Now, an alliance is about substance. Alliance is also about perception. Alliance is about figures, and alliance is about attitudes. So as somebody has said, alliance is about arithmetic, and alliance is also about chemistry. Now, if we are sitting here doing this job, we have to look at chemistry and create the chemistry as much as ensure that we get the numbers that we need. And the numbers that we need are not just numbers that we want and desire, but numbers that in a very objective way, one would argue are necessary for the persuasive strength of the Congress party. Without saying that we are big brother, we are the largest, we are this, we are that. The point is that Congress must contribute something to the alliance. Congress can't just hope that it will get something from the alliance, though we know there's a fact that everybody needs something. It need not be repeated that everybody who's in this alliance realizes that they need something from the alliance. That's why the alliance. Not that they are there out of sense of charity to give something to the alliance. They all need something. They all are able to give something. They all need something. So we must find the right balance between what they can take and what they can give. And at the end of the day, it is inevitable that all of us must believe that a change in government in India at this point of time is imperative and essential. And so whatever we need to do, so normally in political language people say have a large heart, be willing to sacrifice, etc. All that is fine, but it can only go up to a point. It can't go beyond that point. That's one aspect. This other aspect is, I can't speak for the other political parties, but I certainly speak for the Congress. The other aspect is that this is not the last election that we have to fight. We are not closing shop after this. We have to continue as a political party, as a viable political party, whether for a long time in alliances or without alliances or in post-alliance situation, etc. So the viability of the Congress, and that comes to your question, the viability of the Congress now in 2024 and beyond 2024 is something that we have to ascertain, and we have to preserve and protect the viability of the Congress, because fundamentally we believe that if there are faults with us and there are shortcomings with us, that despite all that, the Congress is a good alternative for this country, particularly at this moment in time. So that how is that viability to be preserved is something that is necessary, both in terms of our interface and interaction with the alliance partners, as well as with what we do at home ourselves. Now, we've been through the exercise of reviewing our working, of trying to shake up our working, of restructuring our working. We've been able to implement some of that, the Udaipur resolutions and so on. We've been able to implement some, and we've not been able to implement everything. But it's, if I'm not mistaken, it's work in progress. And unfortunately, elections come all the time, sometimes state, sometimes center, state, center, etc. We don't get a straight run without curves to be able to say that, look, over such a long period, we'll be able to get all this done, and this work in progress will get to a conclusion. So we remain in work in progress throughout, trying to make improvements as we go along. And when you talk of the narrative, as I understand, today the basic narrative that we and our leaders want to push essentially is the quality of life that we give to the Indian citizen. I'm saying that in sort of finer terms, but normally it's talked of in terms of security and safety of the individual, and prosperity of the individual in terms of jobs for young people, in terms of opportunities to grow, in terms of living a happy life, is whether it's the farmer or it's the labor or it's the youth, students and recently graduated young people, or it's women, etc. How do you give a full and happy life to the Indian citizen? These being the factors that are important, not just a romantic idea of singing them lullabies, etc. That is the narrative that we want to take against what you've just mentioned about the narrative that the government is trying to push. Now, I make it very clear that as far as we are concerned, whatever was the contention and dispute as far as the Ram temple was concerned, we had said ought to be settled within ourselves or by a verdict of the court. The verdict of the court came, and we believe that chapter should be closed. The contention and the dispute should stand closed, so that the entity that this entire country has allegiance to, or has faith in, or has respect for, is an entity that should be beyond dispute after the judgment of the Supreme Court. Finding faults with the judgment of the Supreme Court, interpreting it in one manner or another, is for scholars to do, but no longer for the average Indian citizen who's accepted that. And when I say average Indian citizen, I include every single religion, every single segment of Indian society. And the outcome of that now is, the natural outcome is that the Ram Lalla is to be installed. The Pran Pratishtha has to be done, which is how it is always done, and there is no reason for anyone to feel separated from that idea or removed from that idea. But we do say very clearly that astha and politicization of astha are two different things. Astha, the good thing is for everyone, for everybody in different forms. Those who belong to faith will have astha in one form. Those who belong to a multiple, plural society will have astha in another form. But the end result is respect and acceptance. Respect, acceptance, etc., which in other societies have included reconciliation and so on. So you can use that word also, but I use acceptance is the larger word. So respect and acceptance is what now respect and acceptance must come from every segment, section and individuals in their own possible ways. We can't write a script and say if you respect, you must do the following things. There is no script anywhere. There is no script anywhere that can be treated as a universal script, but expectations of respect and allegiance and celebrations are all left to the individuals or groups to decide for themselves how they can do so and contribute to a happy, harmonious society in future. And if the credit for India becoming once again a harmonious society goes to Lord Ram, well, let us celebrate that Lord Ram is become the core of making India harmonious again.
Congress leadership has been invited for the Pran Pratishtha, and you being a leader from Congress leader from Uttar Pradesh, so what do you think? Should the leaders who have been invited attend the Pran Pratishtha?
No,
Yeah, why is there a confusion over who's going, whether you are
Congress is
going
the
or
only
not?
party
There's
which
no
has not
confusion.
made its
There's
stand
no-
Yeah,
clear.
I had a related question. And it's a little going back in history, but from what I understand, the Bhakra Nangal project is a national project. Kaveri water sharing, these are national projects. The Ayodhya temple cannot be considered national project. It is a BJP's project. So in that sense, why is the Congress looking unsure
No,
of
nobody-
where they should stand in
Nobody is-
terms of even optics?
Nobody is unsure. If we went and painted our flag on Bhakra Nangal, would it be fair? If we painted the Congress flag on Bhakra Nangal, would it be fair? It wouldn't be. And during elections, it would be removed. During elections, it would be removed. But there is a
I
very...
said it's a national project from
No,
the
no, no.
Congress government.
I know.
No cross question.
No. National,
your
I'm just saying national project. But if we went and put our flag on a national project, that would be for us to decide. But I'm saying that election commission during elections would say you can't put your flag on a national project, right? Now, if something is a national project, national not by definition of the nation, but civilizational. If it's a national in civilizational terms, somebody wants to treat it as their own, they can do so. If somebody wants to treat it as everybody's, they can do so. But that's the difference, ideological difference of politics. But that's not an ideological difference of religion. I don't think in Astha and faith, any religion in India has said that there are people who are included inside the tent and there are people who are kept outside the tent. The wonderful thing about all religions in our country is that they all speak of, in one way or another, they all speak of inclusion. Inclusion. So Ram treated by Muslim poet as Imam-e-Hind, Muslims and others talking about Rabbul Alameen, not Rabbul Muslimin. That the Rabb is everybody's Rabb, not just the Rabb of Muslims. That's the Indian ethos and Indian culture. But if I get selfish and I say this is mine, then what can you do? If I get selfish and I say this is mine, institutions must not endorse my saying that this is mine, not yours. Aap kaun, hum kaun, etc. No institution must support it. But if I want to say it and I insist on saying it, I will say it. So let me be very clear. Civilizationally, it's national. And civilizationally, we are all part of the same civilization. There are specifics of that civilization, which may be Hindu, Christian, Jain, Buddhist, Islamic, etc. But for anyone who says these are non-Indians and these are Indians, I think is a silly thought, very silly thought. We are all Indians because we share a common civilization. And that common civilization includes all our religions. There will be a dominant presentation by the largest number of people who exist in this civilization. But then for modern times, what we said is that the dominance of anybody, which will be a natural dominance, will not prevent rights of other people, and that's why we got the Constitution. So the Constitution, if anybody thinks, is contrary to the civilization truth of India and the mixing of cultures and all of us treating each other as part of one family, Vasudeva Kutumbakum, is wrong. That the Constitution takes you away from that feeling. That feeling is fortified by the Constitution. That's how I see it. Now, this is a narrative that we need to push, and we must push. We cannot be self-conscious that somebody says, no, civilization is only of a particular kind, and therefore we don't speak. We have such a rich heritage in civilization that speaking about it and having the ability to explain it to ordinary people would be the narrative that we need. And I hope that we'll be able to carry that narrative. But everybody has their own style. Laluji has his own style. I may have my own style. Nitishji has his own style. Somebody else, Mayawati or whoever has his own style. Huh?
Udaniji.
No, yeah, okay.
Udaniji has his style.
Okay, all right, yeah.
What about the Congress leaders attending the...
No, as far as attending is, if people have astha, their astha will tell them what to do. Right? What to do. Now...
Even Shiv Sena said no to.
No, they may, whoever says no, it's an astha. People, it's not a one-day issue. Ram Temple will not cease to be Ram Temple next day, after Mr. Modi returns. And he'll have to return, he can't stay there. So when he returns, Ram Temple will still be Ram Temple. Somebody who has astha goes, what's wrong? Let them go. Let people go. But don't dictate to them and don't write a script that you must come between 10 and 11 on the 22nd. People will go and astha, you go whenever. I mean, nobody ever tells you when to go to a temple. Friends suggest, why don't you do it tomorrow? Because your mother is not well. So why don't you do it tomorrow? Your friend suggested to you. But you go not because your friend is suggesting. You go because you believe my going is the right thing to do. So that will happen. No questions asked. But you could ask me, are you going? Because I've not been invited. But I've been there before.
You need not be invited. No? You can go any day.
No, I have been there.
You will go again.
Long before Mr. Modi is going to go, I've been there. I've been there when it was nothing. It was only a tent. I've been there. Right? I went with Rajesh Pilot. Right? So I had good company in Rajesh Pilot. I went with him. And so I've been there. There's no issue. No issue at all. I've been there.
Ideological ambiguity is something Congress, is a problem.
No.
Congress
What
has
is your
spelled out.
question?
It's related to this only, this ideological ambiguity.
No.
Whether it's in Madhya Pradesh in elections also, we have seen that.
No.
So,
Ideological Congress party's ideology, there are no issues. But Congress workers' ideology may vary from time to time because of their own personal experiences. But wherever we get a chance to advise, to coerce, to persuade, to share what our ideology is, what we broadly describe as Nehruvian ideology, we do that. But people want to write their own gloss, do something else, etc. So between ideology and pragmatism, there can be a gulf. There can be a gulf. It's not, if the gulf becomes too large, it becomes hypocrisy. But if it's a narrow gulf, then it is political correctness, not hypocrisy. Because real life politics has to be somewhat different from pure ideological virtuous life in which you don't have to make any compromises of any kind. But compromise beyond a particular level perhaps is irksome, but compromise in everyday matters, like there is a couplet which says that a head that goes and bows to at every step is no head at all. But a head that doesn't bow anywhere, again, is not a head at all. There is some place you have to find to bow. But if you keep bowing everywhere, then you're nobody. Then there's no relevance in the main place where you must bow.
Tanvi, you've been a law minister. The government has passed lots of laws, very important legislation, in the absence of opposition.
Yeah.
And we have seen that some troubles have erupted. The truckers have gone on strike. Earlier, we have seen the farmers went on strike. And now, in the truckers' case, also the government is like talking to them and trying to resolve. So there seems to be a kind of pattern that you pass the law now and discuss it later. So, what do you think? Like, should there have been more discussion and
Well,
was it
absolutely,
like
absolutely. If you want to introduce tough laws, in specifically in hit and run cases, for instance, if you are at the receiving end of a hit and run case, you feel so helpless, you feel so wretched and so hopeless if you're at the end of a hit and run case. But somebody said to me, that's all very well, but you know what happens when there is an accident? When there's an accident, particularly if it's a huge bus and so on and so forth, then the public threatens to lynch the driver. He doesn't have a chance. He doesn't have a chance to prove his innocence. He doesn't have a chance to say, I was not negligent, etc. He's given justice there and then, and the justice can be of an extreme nature. So there is a problem. There is a problem, which is why people run away. Now, when laws are made, you do research, you bring in data, then you analyze it, and then you discuss it politically from the other side, and then you make a law. But just because you get a brilliant idea one day and say, I'm going to do this, and you do it, that's not the way democracy works. And that's why you're getting this anger from people, right? But the anger doesn't go to a point where it says this is the government that should be changed. I assume that if it has happened till now, then that's the reason why it doesn't happen. They talk when they feel that it's getting too hot, they go and talk. When they think that it's getting hot but it's also helping polarize, etc., then they don't talk. All kinds of things happen. But in a democracy, just having numbers on your side is not enough. Persuading everyone and trying to take everyone along is essential for democracy and for the health of democracy. I'm not quite sure that they understand this. And it may hurt me today, but it'll hurt somebody else tomorrow, and it'll hurt somebody else day after. They can't hope that by doing what they are doing, they're only continuing to hurt a particular group of people that they don't need. You don't know when they will end up hurting people who they need or they will need at that time. So I think that it's a deficient understanding of democracy that makes people use their numbers against other people. But that's why we have constitutional values that despite having numbers, you can't walk over everybody, because the Constitution says there is a line that is drawn beyond which you cannot go even if you have numbers, and the courts are supposed to ensure that that line remains drawn.
Sorry, this is extension of your question, sir. Now, UPA has started muzzling the civil society voice, bringing a to FCRA laws. and now this government is taking forward whatever the work we have started. Now there is a kind of a silence from the civil society, that they are not able to question the government and all. So how do you see this kind of amendment you brought in 2011 and now?
Well, I see. I'm not going to. I'm not going to vouch for whatever we did as being 100% correct. If somebody has issues about what we did, they should discuss it with us and say, we'll tell you where you've gone wrong, why you've gone wrong, etc. You can discuss it. Every law can be misused. Now, simply because a law is going to be misused, you stop making beneficial laws. Doesn't make sense in a democracy. Now, the issue of what we did and the purpose for what we did it was that democracy has an extra element of civil society which is not directly linked with any political party, but has an autonomous and independent view about how society should be ordered. And that's why we facilitated in various ways civil society participating in decision-making processes directly or indirectly, and for that purpose to be able to sustain themselves. This is what we did. Now, if that was wrong, if we made any mistake, somebody should tell us. But not telling us or telling them, not negotiating with them, not discussing with them, not having a dialogue with them, and yet changing everything and restricting them like never before is unacceptable, because it hurts democracy. I can tell you that a lot of things that civil society does hurts or becomes irksome for any person in government, as does, for instance, the right to information. But we brought right to information. Now, if we brought right to information, we can't regret that it's making life very difficult for us. We can't administer because people are asking too many questions. That's wrong. If people are asking too many questions and administration is becoming difficult, we should actually celebrate that what we brought, right to information, has actually made our life tougher in the government. I think we should celebrate it. We shouldn't say, no, this is very tough, change it, which is what has happened now. So I believe that we in the Congress stand by many of these liberal outreach legislations that we brought or decisions that we took, and we would want to continue supporting them. Today, if people are feeling the wrath of the present government for being enterprising activists, etc., it's very regretful, and we would want to do whatever we can to protect them and to preserve and protect their right to participate.
So I have a question on foreign policy. India has been globally very visible because of G20 and other things that we've done. And, Dr. Jaishankar has often said when it comes to China and our neighborhood, there are a lot of things that have happened, especially the area that has gone is because of, was happened under the prime ministership of Pandit Nehru. What would your views be on that? And also, what is your overall opinion on India, its foreign policy, our association with our immediate neighbors, because he said that Nehru had this policy of China first rather than,
I admire my successor many times. He's a bright person. I admire what he's able to do. I don't know whether I could have done the same. To have grown up within a system and within a thought process, and then so fluently able to defy it in subsequent years. If he had never been made ambassador to the top countries, if he had never been celebrated, and he felt that he was a victim of the Nehruvian system, then I would have understood. But I don't think you can find anybody in the Foreign Service who would say that of all the people, Dr. Jaishankar was a victim of the system. If anything, he was the beneficiary of the system, deservedly so. Deservedly so. He was a bright person, deservedly so. But his latest book, which has come on the 5th, yesterday, which talks about today, it's come today, which talks about
Yesterday to
Today's fifth.
whatever
Yeah,
it
it came
is.
yesterday.
Whatever it is, I don't want to argue about 4th or 5th, but the point is that India matters, or
Bharat matters.
Bharat matters, etc. In that entire book, I couldn't understand, because he said we matter for this reason, we matter for this reason, and then he ends by saying we matter because we are Bharat. So we didn't matter all these years because we were not Bharat. All these years we were India, we were Nehru, we were Hindustan. Now, for me, frankly, India is India. It is Hindustan. It is Bharat. We do say Jai Hind, right? Of course, we say Jai Bharat, and we've never objected to saying Jai Bharat, but we do say Jai Hind because it ties up a lot more. And in fact, Mr. Advani used to use Hindustan as Hindustan, but these guys, other people have used Hindustan as Hindostan, but he finds it a bit difficult to use Hindustan. So we were nothing because we were Hindustan. Castro came here because we were Hindustan, and NAM movement came here because we were Hindustan, Bharat, India, etc. And we weren't elected to be heads of G20. There wasn't a popular election. It just happens that it came around that time. And there's a lot more happening in the world than was happening for many, many years during the earlier time. But I think we've forgotten the visits that Khrushchev and Bulganin and Nehru and Nehru receiving various top leaders of the world, and Kennedy welcoming Jawaharlal Nehru. I think we've just forgotten all that. So I don't contest what is happening today, but it's natural. It's the continuum from the past. It isn't that we were being kicked around in the world and then suddenly we've emerged as great heroes. India was always, when we had nothing, we were heading the NAM movement, the Afro-Asian gathering. We were sought after everywhere in the world, etc. When we had nothing. But then we did get something. And a lot of that we have got has come from, we are a nuclear power today. Why? Because nuclear power, because Nehru-Indira connectivity provided the base for nuclear power. Narasimha Rao reached it to the doorstep of being nuclear power. But yes, it came during the BJP government. But he doesn't even give credit to the BJP government for having turned us nuclear. And then he doesn't give us credit for the remarkable negotiations he did in the US to bring the 1-2-3 agreement. I mean, is that lack of memory, or is it modesty that he doesn't want to tell us what he did as ambassador to the United States of America? We are ready to give him credit, but he's not willing to take credit because his fear is that if he takes credit, he gives the credit to Narasimha Rao, to Manmohan Singh, to Indira Gandhi. He doesn't want to do that. So what a great man. That I'll give up everything modestly and say that I've done nothing. I all started it in 2014 and there was nothing here before 2014. So this is my short comment on him. But interestingly, Nehru gave away land to China. Gave away in the sense that the Chinese attacked us and grabbed our land, etc. And we didn't talk to China for a long time after that, till Mr. Rajiv Gandhi decided that let's bygones be bygones, let's move and look ahead. But we are not being told in any of these books as to how much land China has come and grabbed now, right? The Prime Minister says China has not taken any land, right? So where did our where did our men get killed? Was it on Chinese land that we were trying to take, or was it on our land that China was trying to take? So I think we need some clarity on that. But be that as it may, Nehru had a vision, right? Now, every visionary whose vision is frustrated cannot be criticized for having had a vision. So, whatever Mr. Sardar Patel wanted, whatever Minu Masami wanted, whatever anybody wanted vis-a-vis our attitude towards China, Jawaharlal Nehru had a vision, and that vision had many parts. You isolate one part and say that's where he failed on China, because China let us down. So somebody betraying you causes you to become a villain. Why are they not villains? So today when somebody says Nehru was wrong in his vision of China, then what is the vision of China today? Is China a villain? Are we in a position to say China is a villain? Some people have said it. I think George Fernandez or somebody had said our first enemy or whatever. But today we don't even say that. Today we are absolutely quiet. Don't talk about it. Dealing with China is both for him, for us, and for everybody, for this whole country. Dealing with China, whatever China is today, is a great challenge. And no great challenge is met without one being honest as to what the challenge is.
Sir, are you happy with the present system of judicial judgments that has been pronounced? I'm talking about this post judgment which has been same-sex marriage and Article 370. Sir, are you happy with the system of judicial that pronouncement is going on? And my second question is that, sir, post retirement, that's a lot of controversial issues going on that after retirement some judges should be given some post or something. So are you in favor of that, or is some kind of law should be levied down and all that, sir?
Well, my instincts tell me, and these are not my instincts alone. They are instincts of Supreme Court judges like Justice Korean Joseph, like Justice Chelmavishwar, who have never accepted any assignment after retirement from the Supreme Court. Others have. But my instinct tells me that the Supreme Court judgeship is such a high pinnacle that after that nothing comes anywhere near. And for a few comforts or occupying yourself, not being occupied can be a terrible thing for somebody at an advanced age. But I don't think that it behoves to take any job after having been in the Supreme Court. Let us learn in this society to use the wisdom of retired Supreme Court judges as an asset for thinking about great things. I think we should use them as a very important asset of society, but I don't think that we should give them assignments. I am very clear on that, but there may be many other implications that have to be considered. Should the judges retire at 65? I have a view that they shouldn't retire at 65. If they're good enough to be on another commission after 65, then why are they not good enough to remain Supreme Court judges beyond 65 is a big question that should be answered. Why should High Court judges retire at 62? Why should Supreme Court judges retire at 65 is another big question. So that's as far as the judges are concerned. As far as the judgments are concerned, you can always disagree, but you should have done as much work on that judgment as the judges have, and they work very, very hard, painstakingly they write these judgments. These are all new areas of law. These are a lot to do with concepts, lot to do with moral thought, lot to do with ethics, lot to do with the way we think about ourselves in humanity and so on. And they are then making judgments which are within the contours of these things and ideas. Not easy, not very easy. these are not their personal thoughts. They can't be their personal thoughts. These are institutional thoughts about how we as a society are thinking about ourselves. They may get the right information, they may not get the right information. But these are very difficult areas. I am more than this. I believe these are very important areas. I don't want to undermine any of their importance. But I believe more than this is the criticality of freedom of expression, freedom of the media, freedom of the average Indian citizen, right? He makes mistakes. He builds his house wrong. But should we not give him the freedom to find some ways of rectifying it? Just send bulldozers to his house and bring his house down because he says something that you don't like. I think I'm much more worried about those. And the courts are protecting people, but it takes so long to get there, so long to get to the court to get the protection that many people perish and suffer without being able to get to court. So I think that's a much more important area.
Last question. Judges appointing judges. It's often been criticized at a larger level that Chacha Bhatijabaz is going on. So do you think that the judges appointing judges as collegium system should be there, or it should be strike down?
The politicians will appoint politicians to So I mean this is a big Indian problem. This is not a problem of judges. This is a big Indian problem. Journalists appoint journalists. But you are considered the best. You are considered the best because you know what journalism requires. Maybe once in a while somebody speaks to you and says, "Mera bachcha hai, isko rakh lo, seekhega," etc. Make an exception, but I mean that's part of the system of growing up. I don't know whether they are foolproof systems. If you can trust a judge with your destiny and your life, you can't trust that judge to make another good judge is itself a little bit of an internal contradiction. But the jury's out on this. I can't say that I have a final view.
So one more question on this, on the neighborhood. We have elections happening in Bangladesh on the 7th, and the local media says that India is quite involved in the election process there. How do you see things different in India's neighborhood now compared to when it was when Congress was in power, whether it's Pakistan, Maldives, Sri Lanka, Myanmar?
Well, we've had bad times. We've had bad times with the neighborhood. I'm now told that the policy of the neighborhood is that we don't need to insist on reciprocity, meaning for them to do for us in reciprocity for what we are to do for them. There have been issues in the past when the civil service or the foreign service has said there must be reciprocity, and I've always found that a little bit awkward. Telling Maldives to have reciprocity with India is a bit senseless, right? You can't have reciprocity. You can have proportionality, but not reciprocity. Be that as it may, I think that there'll always be tough choices to be made, and the neighborhoods, the influence of China in the neighborhood is what I think forces them to take positions that are not comforting for us, not comfortable for us. But that problem is not their problem. That's the problem that we have with China. We are not clear what we want to do with China. It could be in an ideal situation that China and we work together in the neighborhood. But we don't want to do that. We can't do that. So China goes and does whatever it wants to do anyway. We don't have the resources to match China, unfortunately, either in Africa or in the neighborhood. So how do we do that is something that we should spend a little more time on instead of blaming somebody else or blaming the Congress party.
So just a related question. The Middle East is flaring up and different strategies are being evolved. Where do you see India as some kind of negotiator, or do you think India is doing the right thing by reaching out to?
India is not reaching out. See, India is not reaching out. The moment you put out a tweet taking sides, right or wrong, not addressing that. Right or wrong, not addressing that. When the moment India reaches out to one as against the other, you've already lost your ability to to intervene. Now, what the Secretary General of the UN says, UN Secretary General are no friends of Hamas, right? But what the Secretary General of the UN says is a point of view that is available to India. But India never said that. Because India wants to take sides. Mr. Modi, Prime Minister, has developed relationships, which he's entitled to. He's Prime Minister, he's entitled to do. But then you don't have the high moral ground from which you can then preach. We couldn't do it for various reasons in Ukraine. We haven't done it for various reasons with Palestine, and therefore we opted ourselves out of that. And it may not be 100% Indian fault. It may well be a little fault of Palestine, Hamas. We didn't have a relationship with Hamas, obviously. We had, with Arafat, we had a relationship. But when we keep saying that the world is changing and we have to change with the world, then what happened where Palestine was concerned? I find very significant the statement that was made by somebody in the UN that, look, what has happened is we don't stand and we don't condone what Hamas has done. But frankly, we had forgotten Gaza. For 20 years, we had forgotten Gaza. Now they put Gaza right on the map. And Netanyahu coming to the UN General Assembly and showing a map minus Palestine is the turning point. That after that, what do you expect people to do? Secondly, there's a very important analysis that the attack by Hamas was not an attack by an outsider. It was by an occupied entity. And we have an issue about occupation. We have a very, very stable and sustained issue of occupation of POK. Right? Now, if we are against occupation in our matter, we can't be for occupation in some other matter. Right? It's not easy. But I'm just saying that this is a problem that you need to notice and find a solution for. There are no easy solutions. I will never hold the government responsible for not taking easy solutions, etc., because these are difficult solutions. But you get into government to solve difficult problems. You don't get into government to have everything your way.
Yeah, but the government is talking about two-nation solution for
When?
Israel and Gaza. No, Modi talks about it even now.
When Modi's first tweet?
Yeah, that's all right. That was on the 7th
That's
of
only when
October.
it's only when the bureaucrats said you're going wrong.
Yeah.
And then they stepped in. And those bureaucrats would have said it because the Arab countries would have said, now look, please, you remember what you said all along. And what we said all along was what Mr. Modi was rejecting. But then it just became too hot for him, so his bureaucrats immediately said no, two-nation solution.
Sir, last year India defied many sanctions and went ahead and bought cheap oil from Russia. So does it impact us diplomatically in any way?
With whom?
Russia.
No.
For other nations.
See, the cheap oil that we bought from Russia had a context that the Europeans were imposing sanctions, but not where it affected them. Now, if we accepted the sanctions, buying oil does affect us. That was one thing. Secondly, we have a historical relationship with Russia. I think we don't have such a strong relationship with Ukraine. We have a very strong relationship with Russia. Russia has drifted a bit. From time to time, it drifts to Pakistan. It's drifted again towards Pakistan. But I think if we are trying to repair our relationship with Russia, then it was inevitable that we had to continue buying stuff from them because they needed money. They needed money. And the criticism is that the money that we are giving them is providing for the weapons that are being used on Ukraine. That's what people say. But the point is, again, this was a difficult, very difficult proposition and a difficult thing for us to do. We couldn't have let go of Russia completely. We couldn't, we had to stand by, but Russia also should have shown a little bit more towards us as they did during Indira Gandhi's time. But I don't think Russia shows the same warmth and the same kind of support that they did during Indiraji's time.
No, but Putin called up Modi first when the war happened with Ukraine, and India has not been left out of the loop.
No, not loop. He's saying I'm attacking Ukraine. Thank you.
Yeah, but what I'm
And
saying is
Mr.
that
Modi
India and
says,
Russia not.
no, but Mr. Modi didn't say, no, you cannot attack. You cannot attack. He didn't say that. He received a phone call, but receiving a phone call to be told that, look, just mind your own business, I'm going and attacking Ukraine. That's not good enough.
Yeah, Parvez.
Telling us that he's talked to them, all that doesn't impress us. We know what happens in these conversations.
Sir, my question is about this bill which was passed in the parliament recently on appointment of chief election commissioners and commissioners. The government made changes in the committee.
I think that's a little bit far-fetched. I think if there has been consistently the presence of the Chief Justice or a representative of the Chief Justice in all the top constitutional appointments, I don't think that they should have, either as a matter of courtesy or a matter of propriety, that they should have moved the Chief Justice out. It embarrasses the Chief Justice, particularly when important decisions are being made which concern the government and the government's interest. At that time, to move out the Chief Justice and force him to take a view. He can't take the case himself. He'll have to give it to some other judge. But to create such a tension, I think, was quite unnecessary. I don't support this.
But the government has done, sir, through this bill, exactly what the Congress party, how the Congress party has been appointing election commissioners for the last 70 years, which is by the government.
Yeah,
and
but
here also through this bill, the government gains the majority by keeping out the Chief Justice. So, how can you protest? Because you have been doing exactly the same.
We were doing a lot, but this is often thrown at us. Things move on. Things change. Before session, election commission was of one kind. After session, election commission was of another kind. Now you can't say go back to the original form. Session was an aberration. You can't do that. Somebody comes, he adds another layer. Somebody comes, he adds another dimension. You have to accept it. And the additional dimension was an election commission should have been more answerable to institutional scrutiny because it plays such an important role. But instead of answering to constitutional scrutiny, they're trying to reduce that and take it back into what they may claim was the system that worked under the Congress party.
Congress legacy.
But Congress legacy, they don't seem to follow in many things, including the Nehru Museum.
Sir, I have a very small but specific questions. Right now, BJP-led government, even in parliament, even outside the parliament, makes claims that POK is going to be taken back. I want to know whether is it possible for India to take it back, POK, or the second question is CAA feasible to take?
These rules are coming.
Yeah.
CAA,
Lisa recently claimed.
so the rules are coming. The point is, the potential of CAA is worrisome. And there was a protest against that. And they have come down very ruthlessly on that protest. Right? You could have overlooked it, but you very ruthlessly. And then, of course, the protest was met by COVID, etc. So the ruthlessness they showed towards the protesters was shrouded by the COVID, and therefore the kind of empathy or sympathy that they might have claimed they were unable to get. The rules are now coming. Now, once the rules come and CAA and the rules are applied, then the element of how inhuman it is will become more apparent. I think they realize that having used the special dispensation in Assam, they've run into a very difficult problem in Assam and they don't know what to do with it. Anyway, that 6A and all that are still with the Supreme Court. So they don't know how to solve Assam except by the manner in which Indira Gandhi and Sheikh Mujibur Rahman had settled the matter, saying that on that particular day, 24th or whatever, or 25th it was, whoever was in Bangladesh, on that day, whoever was in Bangladesh will be treated as a citizen and we'll take them back. So there is at least a solution between Bangladesh and India. Now, what would be the solution to all these people if they are disqualified under the CAA, etc., etc.? that will only become apparent once they start applying it to individual cases.
But they are not talking about NRC now. This filtering happens only when NRC
No,
is implemented.
I know, but there is nothing to do in the CAA. Filtering doesn't happen. I mean, it's just giving people certificates is not enough. There is nothing wrong in giving people citizenship. It's the only issue is that some people are being handpicked to give escalated citizenship while others are not.
But it's discriminatory.
And there has to be an explanation of why. There has to be an explanation that you are saying that these are people who are discriminated because of their religion. Now, because of their religion, discrimination, I think they don't know, is much greater between Shias and Sunnis, between Ahli Hadith and whatever else. With various sects of Muslims, the discrimination is much greater. So if it's just discrimination on the basis of sect or religion, then you would have a larger number of people covered. But why do you have to worry about discrimination, etc.? Anybody discriminated for any reason should be given escalated citizenship, because we don't have a general refugee law, but we have always been a welcoming home for people who don't have a home elsewhere. We've always been. But the humane element is missing in their legislation, and that has its consequences, which we will see when individuals are hauled up.
Sir, how do you see the India's claim on POK? My specific question. Is India in position to take it back?
See, nobody should think that we are reluctant to take POK back. I could even say take all of Pakistan. No. What stops them from taking all of Pakistan?
Unification. There should be a talk for unification between Pakistan.
They should offer Pakistan to take them over. And then you watch what happens.
Sir, another question is related to electoral bonds. Congress is opposing and saying that BJP is getting maximum funds through electoral bonds than any other party. But Congress is also receiving funds through electoral bond also. So what is your one?
No, the point is we receive something, therefore we should be happy, and somebody else receives 10 times what we receive, therefore we should not be unhappy. The point is there a level playing field? In the whole system of elections, the phrase that is used repeatedly is a level playing field. Whether in the legislation, whether in the manner in which the code of conduct is implemented, etc., is there a level playing field in terms of money that comes directly or indirectly to the political parties, etc.? There is no provision in India that ruling parties, whatever they get, a proportion of that should be got to the other parties as well. This is elsewhere in the world. These things apply, but we have not applied this. And don't say we've not applied because Congress didn't apply it. Of course, Congress didn't apply it, but there were no bonds in the Congress time either. So whenever there is a new proposal, a new idea, a new concept, I think we have to endorse it without going into the history to say that you didn't do it, therefore we won't do it.
So in connection with this, yesterday Kharge ji said that Congress is not getting enough money.
That's
and,
not the fund.
Yeah.
That's
not
this.
But he did say that Congress is not getting enough money. So is Congress funding going down, or is it stagnant, or what is the way? I mean, I remember Maharashtra also facing that problem.
Started
crowdfunding is going well.
But the reports that
10 crores was what within 2
but
days.
10 crores, no, not in 2 days, 4 crores.
Okay.
In 2 days it was 4 crores, but down the road, I think 10 days, 12 days, 13 days or something, it became 10 crores. 45 lakhs crowdfunding in the Adivation itself. They had put people out with the necessary things to inform as to how they could do, and 45 lakhs was collected from ordinary workers in the Adivation itself. So money is coming, but people are scared. People are really scared to, if you're scared to talk to the Congress, you'd be scared to give money to the Congress.
Is there any plan to revive Congress party in Delhi? my question. Like, it's like India
Do you expect him to say no?
My question is that they are going in alliance with India bloc.
That is the question. आपके साथ alliance हो रहा है कि नहीं?
So is it a route to revive the Congress or some other plan? They
आपके
have?
साथ
See,
alliance-
the alliance ideology has not been stated. So they are busy doing functional things. Sit down and just put their heads together to say what is the purpose of an alliance. European countries have a clear concept of alliance. When they fight an election, they tell you who will be the foreign minister, who will be the finance minister, which party will have what, etc., etc. They do that in advance. So you know exactly what you are voting for. Now, we haven't reached that level of maturity in our democracy. And therefore, nobody sits down to say, let's work out what the idea of this alliance is. What is the idea of this alliance? So, willy-nilly, they say the idea of this alliance is to replace the present government with a more liberal government, etc. But then it becomes too government-centric that their only job is to remove, etc., etc. So it becomes a problem. This whole idea of alliance going forward, what would it be? I don't think we've spent enough time thinking about it. So if you ask me, how would you describe what this alliance is? This alliance this alliance is like a shot in the arm, that we want you to keep going, and therefore you need a shot in the arm. That's only possible if we all of us get together, get injections and inject ourselves. But when you start walking around, running, exercising, doing something, what will you end up doing? I think one has to think about this. And I'm not sure that there is enough time. So people will tell you, work on getting your seats. We'll talk about all this later. Don't spend time just sitting there saying ideologically, this is what we should do, this is what we should do. Broadly, everyone understands ideology. So in any case, when the joint meetings begin, and I hope they will begin soon, you will get a clear idea of the shared ideology that the alliance represents. You will get a clear idea of that. And that will be the narrative that one hopes, along with the arithmetic, that people
Sir, I have four
take us
questions.
through. Yeah.
One is on your UP plans. Now that Rahul Gandhi is also spending like 11 days in UP during the
Also
Yatra.
going through
Yeah, going through the maximum days. The
Yeah.
second is on PM phase. Mr. Kharge's name has been proposed, but then, I guess there was no support from Congress.
We have a strong sense. We have a strong sense that nobody is talking about PM phase.
But Mr. Kharge's name has
No. Mr. Kharge is seen in some places. Mr. Kharge is seen as the natural person to represent an aspiration that we see on the ground in UP. Elsewhere also perhaps. But on the ground in UP, as you have seen, the emergence of Mayawati and the dominance of Mayawati in amongst the Dalit community, Muslims joining her, etc., was a critical factor. Now it's seen as a receding force, and it's seen as possibly not occupying the entire space that the BSP once represented. Other people have emerged, Ravan has emerged, etc., etc. Now, naturally, people believe that with his stature, his status, and his background, that he can fill that space. That's why they take this name, etc. But whatever he has said about this suggestion is something that I can't go beyond, and I can neither contradict nor neither give an alternative. We must go by what Mr. Kharge has said, whatever is the strategic reason why he said it. But I can tell you from the ground reality that a lot of people in UP are, in my party, are very keenly looking at the possibility of bringing in Khargeji to contest from UP. This is what the Congress president of UP has said on record. But we have no response from Mr. Kharge, so it will be wrong for me to commit either way, one way or the other. But he is emerging as an aspirational figure. He's emerging.
Sir, in Punjab, the Congress party is emerging as a front runner. But Arvind Kejriwal is saying that we will fight alone on all 13 seats.
We are in touch. We are in touch with Mr. Kejriwal and his party vis-a-vis Delhi. We have not even talked to our own leaders in Punjab. That is left for later. So we are first handling the low-hanging fruit. Then we'll start trying to climb the tree, because climb the tree that you fall from will give you a lot of...
Even the Punjab unit is openly against making statements against.
There's even UP unit starts making... But we are requesting everyone not to give vent to their feelings publicly. We need to talk about this in close quarters, closed door, etc., to see what the possibilities are.
Sir, the Nehru Museum is now called the PM Museum. If the Congress comes to power, will it go back to being the Nehru Museum?
This is a special area. This is a special area of Mr. Jairam Ramesh. So I will not preempt anything that he might say on this.
Hazard a guess on that front.
Always remember for Ram Mandir, Article 370, then your, all these verdicts. But do you think that this Uniform Civil Code, UCC, that is being still decided by the government, that will also be implemented much later, or also Section 6A also is there?
I think UCC is on the way.
See, as far as the UCC is concerned, all the other things that he has done, whether we wanted them to happen or not happen, let's face it that many of the things that he has done were not off the table as far as we are concerned. Which is why we haven't led a major protest against him. So clearly, as I said right in the beginning, Ram Mandir, see our record. Our record was, let's settle it amongst ourselves, or let the Supreme Court decide. And we accepted what the Supreme Court said. Receiving the Supreme Court judgment, our reactions may have varied. Some were sober, some were not so sober, etc. But our reactions were somewhat varied. We were willing for the matter to be settled once for all, and we expected that the Supreme Court has done that or would have done that. As far as 370 is concerned, we had said clearly, and we've said this in our statements also, that 370 was assumed to be a temporary provision, and much of the 370 had been hollowed out. So 370 was left as a symbolic thing, etc. But even that symbolic thing should have been deleted, removed, amended in a manner which was proper. And the proper manner included not only the right sort of constitutional handling, but also the appropriate political participation of the people. That didn't happen, and therefore we opposed it. But it's happened. We opposed it for that reason. But from my own point of view, I asked myself a question, as we do in court, is that 370 had certain elements left which have gone. The elements that were left in 370 and that have gone are also elements that are in 371 for several states. Now, several states can have those, and India can survive as an integrated country, but those are removed in Kashmir, and only then we ask ourselves this question, that has integration now finally happened? So integration of Nagaland and integration of Sikkim and integration of Arunachal, etc., is not a problem with those provisions. Then those provisions from Kashmir also could not have been a problem. But these are things to be considered. Secondly, as far as federalism is concerned, we have an issue that federalism is not something that is dependent on the Solicitor General's concession. Federalism is either there or it's not there. And as far as Kashmir is concerned, it is dependent on as today, it is dependent on the Solicitor General's concession. That we think is wrong.
Forget about these things. Let us come to brass tacks. BJP has got, इसको कहते हैं नारा भी है, नेता भी है. मोदी की गारंटी, it's an inclusive thing. Modi is leader, guarantees program. What have you got against that?
हमारे पास माँ है.